Welcome to the Life Talk series. This will be brought to you by the Life Skills channel. This is going to be a little different than usual. We will be discussing important topics weekly. So in this episode, we'll be discussing schools, children, materialistic and minimalistic societies. I believe these are very important topics nowadays, and today I have Tyler with me. So Tyler, what do you think about schools and how they're teaching children nowadays?
We're going to touch on a lot of things where we see issues with the school system, and we're going to kind of recap at the end and talk about how we can make things a little bit better, even at home. So most kids start these days in kindergarten or pre-K, somewhere around the age of 5, and it seems like it's going lower and lower. I think the average age used to be somewhere around 6 or 7, and now it tends to be more around that 5-year-old age. And you're going to school until you're 17 or 18 years old. So most of the beginning stage of your life, you're in school, you're being taught these things. So I think it's important that we talk about it, how there's some issues with the system and what we can do to change that system. So
Exactly. So as we know, in kindergarten, you start at the age 5. But I did notice a little thing about technology with that young of a crowd. Guess the average age of a kid getting their hands on technology is?
I'd say 7.
Wrong.
Okay.
Actually, a year before they even start learning. So they get technology at 4 years old.
Wow. So that's the average age is 4 years old to get some kind of a cell phone or a tablet or something to play on. Is that right?
Yeah, so there was a study from 2005 to 2019. 2005 is around 10 years old, and it dropped down to now 4 years old.
Wow.
It's pretty crazy.
It is crazy. Another thing, I was watching a YouTube video with Dr. Bruce Lipton, and he talks about how the first 7 years of an individual's life are the most important. These are the times when your subconscious is being programmed. So the first 7 years of your life, you are in what is called a theta state, or essentially hypnosis. That's interesting because we're turning our children over to this public education system or private, whatever it may be, and we're letting them program our children with these ideas at an early age. Not just that, but we are teaching them less because we're spending less time with the children. It's a coupled problem. It's not just a school system problem, but it is, a few things, and that's why we're talking about those 3 topics today.
So as you brought up creativity, when I was in 2nd grade, there was a little thing called creative writing. You'd make your own stories and stuff like that. But I've noticed that started to decrease the later in the school years you go, and I guess as time goes on.
Right.
Because I guess they're trying to restrict creativity just so you could get through with the content they're trying to teach you.
Yeah, and I think schools are more geared towards just giving you information and then you regurgitate it onto a test. It's a memorization game. So a lot of people I know, especially entrepreneurial people, are not really good at school. A lot of people drop out of college, including myself, because once you see the correlation with, say, physics or calculus, if you're not going to go into those career paths where those subjects will help you, why even waste your time? And that was my perception on college, and I've still proved to be successful by dropping out and pursuing other options. So I think you need to study things that you're truly interested in and things that are going to be applicable in your life versus just studying these fixed curriculums that we have in school today that aren't very effective in building the future of society.
And especially with building, I guess, your brain and all that in school, a big part of that is what you consume on a daily basis.
Yeah, absolutely.
So school lunches are just terrible nowadays. So for example, an average school day lunch would be a piece of pizza that's basically cardboard,
Right.
old milk, and then freeze-dried fruit. But it's in a plastic bag.
Well, not just at school. Think about the diet specifically in America. Like 50% of the population is obese. That's unbelievable. We are so out of balance with natural foods and garbage in, garbage out. Simple as that. And that goes the same thing for your thoughts as well. If you're sitting around on the couch watching these stupid reality shows, and if you take offense to it, hey, it's probably something you need to address. And if you're showing children this garbage on television, you're feeding them garbage, you're part of the problem. So I just want you to realize what's going on. We're all guilty of it at some point, but we can change it. And the children are what's important. The schools are not gonna make the future society the way we need it to, and it's our job as parents and adult resources to train and teach the future society the skills that they need to learn to be successful. So,
especially with talking about obese, I think it's definitely the proportion sizes, because in America, for the proportions are so big.
Yeah, the portions are way too big. And I've lived all over the world, from Europe, Middle East, and it's very different. When you live in Europe, you have a lot of fresh markets, a lot of fresh produce, and it's smaller portions and very healthy compared to America, where we even have a higher regulatory agency like the FDA, and it still is a lot of garbage food, a lot of processing. Just do yourself a favor. Look at the back of a box or a back of a container of food and look at all the ingredients. I don't eat perfect every day, but I manage to stay in moderately decent shape by just looking at the ingredients in the food. If it has more than 5 or 6 ingredients, I really don't want to be a part of it. And think about all the chemicals that are in it too. If you can't pronounce the stuff that you're eating, it's probably not good for you. These preservatives and things like that, we need to do a better job of looking at the things that we're eating, getting more basic foods.
Let's move on to another topic of schools: drugs and violence exposure. Because I do see a lot of that. Because you could see that, like how the student acts in class, like they're having withdrawals or stuff like that. But also with fights, there's a lot of exposure to it, because let's say someone records a fight, that goes on social media, more people get it, the more popular.
Yeah.
Spreads like a wildfire.
We built this society around instant gratification and releasing those endorphins. Take the video of somebody fighting, somebody getting knocked out, and it's just like, what kind of example is that? Talking about drugs, not just street drugs that you get exposed to when you're, say, in middle school and high school, but the drugs such as as adults, opiates and painkillers are a huge problem in America, probably one of the biggest issues with America right now. Outside of food, the pharmaceutical industry is probably one of the biggest failure points in America, but that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, we can get into all that in another video, but so now we're going to move on to the topic of children and raising your kids. You need to make sure you're spending quality time with them, because it's probably one of the most important parts of their childhood, learning morals and life skills from them.
Yeah, absolutely. Values and morals and life skills, those are things that need to be instilled at an early age. So if you're not exposed to those things, say your parents are working all the time, you don't see your family, you're going to get it from somewhere. And the society that we've built is awful. So these morals and values aren't going to be the correct ones. For example, a trend I see, especially anybody who's on Instagram, any kind of social media, is everybody wants to get rich quick, right? So if you don't have morals and values instilled at a young age, you're going to do anything you can to get rich quick. Think about it. If you don't know right from wrong, and those ideas aren't instilled in you, you'll do whatever it takes to get the results that you want. So it's important to know what is worth doing and where you're going to draw the line. There's got to be a line.
Exactly. That also kind of feeds with school. Maybe the topics aren't the best, but it's just a baseline, and you could build up on that. And it's just like with a child, teach them a little bit of morals, and they'll just be a baseline, and then
they can grow from there. School is good for, teaching you the basics of life. And I'm not trying to be negative about school, because there are some great things that you can learn. Basic math skills, English communication is essential to life. Without that, you can't do anything. So I'm not trying to be too hard on school. There's just several things that we picked out that need to be addressed, and hopefully by making you aware of them, you can address them and move forward and be more productive.
Well, video games, because video games are so addictive.
Right.
Because I even see it in classes. Kids pull out like computers and play games on like non-school computers.
Right. Unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. So there's a lot of repercussions with that, but I see it as such an addiction, because if I'm out to eat and I see a table, there's like a kid there, they'll be so antsy to go home so they could go back to video games.
Or I see it at restaurants where they're sitting at the head of the table, maybe in a high chair or whatever, and the mother just gives them a device to play on. You see that all the time, right? Yeah, you can't even go out to dinner.
But especially with technology and little kids, there's a mental and physical aspect to it, because it kind of works with the addiction side, but it also hurts their eyes. So later on, study shows that they're going to need glasses later on in life. But the anatomy side of video games, to with little kids, you'll see them like in a, like, for example, a dentist office, they'll be hunched over.
Yeah.
They'll call C neck. So then their neck will grow like a C.
Right.
Then later on, they'll need chiropractic or surgery just to get it back right.
Interesting. And like you said, with children, their bones and structure is still forming. So that's very important to stand up straight and get out of those bad habits.
So another thing with drugs, antidepressants. So there's not really long-term study effects on the kid that actually takes it. Taking like drugs to feel happier, just involve yourself with a happier situation.
Well, also, I feel like parents a lot of times give their children these drugs such as Ritalin, ADHD drugs to even preoccupy the children so they don't have to deal with it. I think a lot of people did not make a conscious decision when they decided to have children. They were not prepared to have children, both mentally and or financially, and the society we've built is a result of that. The mind is like a garden. If you don't cultivate that garden, dig out the weeds, water it, plant the great things in there, it's going to be full of weeds. It's going to be garbage. So it's important that we are cultivating these children's minds with productive, and I think that's a big issue. We're not spending the time with the children, and we're looking for these alternative resources such as video games, antidepressants, substances that can preoccupy the children instead of doing what's right.
I mean, I've never heard someone use that as an example, like a garden, but that's like a great way to say it, because you need to spend time with it and develop it. So we're going to move on to materialistic and minimalistic societies.
Okay.
See it as America has one of the biggest problems with it, because we just like having so much stuff.
Yeah.
But in a 2017 study, it showed they took 5 materialistic people and had them live in a minimalistic household for 1 week.
Okay.
And they felt happier.
I wonder why that was.
So they said that because it was like less overbearing and less stuff to do, because in quotes, they said there's just so much to do with cleaning it and maintaining it.
For sure.
But then when we went to the minimalistic household, they felt happier because they could actually enjoy the living space.
Can relax. Yeah.
Yes. And there's less stress on that, especially to them.
I can definitely relate to that. About 10 years ago, I had, a 4-bedroom house. I was single. I had a Corvette, a Harley Davidson dirt bike, a truck. I had what was considered the American dream, and I still have. I have the capability, much more resources now than I did back then, but I have since simplified my life. I went to move overseas about 5 years ago, And I left America with a suitcase and a backpack. I ended up in a one-bedroom apartment. It's an awesome apartment, but it was very minimal. And then I furnished it with very minimal things. And I lived there for 2.5 years, and I think a lot of things that it taught me was how to be happy with less things. I read tons of books. I was healthier than I've ever been in my whole life. I was committed to that and the things that are actually important in life. So yeah, I think less is more. And one of the things that I do every 6 months, especially in the home in America, is I go through and I clean house every 6 months. I go through the closet, I go through the garage, and just get rid of stuff. And I like to donate it because it helps the less fortunate out. And you can, even if you want to sell it, regardless, it's a great idea. Declutter your life, right? So that's something I do every 6 months. Get rid of all the noise and clutter in your life.
So did we talk about instant and delayed gratification? It's a great topic to dive into. There's a big difference between instant and non-instant gratification. Let's talk about Arnold Schwarzenegger, for example. When he was younger, his dad made him do push-ups before he ate for delayed gratification because his dad knew that in the world that he was growing up in wasn't
the
going to
bodybuilding world, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't going to be instant.
No. Think about being a bodybuilder, for example. How many years and how much time do you have to put in to get a physique like Arnold? It's unbelievable. And most of us just do not have the discipline to do that. So yeah, absolutely, that's a great idea. Start building those tasks that can help you with the instant gratification.
A lot of people don't have the strive to do stuff nowadays.
Right.
Because even simple stuff like cutting your yard, if you look, houses are overgrown.
Mm-hmm.
So just have that integrity to do it.
And it all comes with what you put in your body, right? So like we talked about earlier, if you're consuming crappy food, you're going to feel bad. If you're not exercising, you're going to feel bad. If you're watching all these fight videos or reality TV or whatever, you're immersed in these video games, you're not doing anything productive, you're going to get poor results. So it's time to stand up and do something about it.
Yeah.
And it starts with, one step. For example, if you're walking, just get out and walk around your neighborhood. Spend 30 minutes with your kid. Take time with them. Teach them something productive every day.
Even simple board games.
Board games are great.
So speaking of a great board game, Cash Flow, we're not sponsored by them, but you spend quality time and you learn life skills like how to save your money, when to
invest,
and all that good stuff. So
absolutely.
Even simple stuff like that, like a little investment, because when you have a child, it's like an 18-year investment.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So just invest not all of it, but most of all your energy into it and make it the best investment you can.
Yeah, and I don't think most people look at it that way. I think they just look at it as something they have to do. And I don't think most people realize the implications of having children. A lot of people just do not think about it. They don't plan for it. A lot of people don't have the financial means. They don't even have the life skills. If you're 20 years old having a kid, what do you really know at 20 years old? Not much.
Not much at all.
Not much. And that's why I'm a firm believer of having children a little bit later in life.
So you're financially stable as well?
That, and you actually know what the hell is going on.
Mm-hmm.
You know what's going on in life. You got a little bit of experience that you can now transfer down to that next generation. You should not be relying on schools to teach the future generation everything they need to know. The school system's flawed for one. It's not going to prepare them for the real world. It's your job as a parent to do so.
Exactly. It's a perfect way to say it.
Spend more time with your kids. Live a simple life. Go through every 6 months and just declutter. You will be surprised at how much better you feel. Start with a little bit of exercise and change your diet. It's incredible the difference in how you feel just going on a walk or reading a book. Make yourself more useful to your children. Learn those things that would be beneficial to them in the future. Just spend time with them. Go fishing, go for a walk, go kayaking, go enjoy some outdoor time. A lot of things don't even cost money to go to the duck pond or go out in the front yard, throw the baseball with them. Something, teach them life skills that's important. I think we have gave you a lot of points and insight into things that are important and ways to address those situations, hopefully.
So we're going to be posting videos like this weekly. So if you have any topics you want us to talk about, link them in the comments. Make sure to subscribe and like. We're going to be starting a new series later on. It's going to be called Career Paths, which we'll be talking with professionals in their field.